Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. You can follow me on X at Movies TV Mad and on Instagram and on Threads at Movies TV Mad X. A very warm welcome to Saturday's edition of the Movies TV Mad Daily. Today, this morning, I woke up, I wanted to do a video explaining why I love Man of Steel. But then this huge revelation came to me about General Zod, the so-called villain of Man of Steel. Would you like to hear my revelation? No, you don't care what I think. Well, I'm going to tell you anything. That in the end, we all become General Zod from Man of Steel. How can that be, Mick? He's a villain. Are you telling me you empathize and sympathize with a villain? Well, once upon a time, General Zod within this story was the hero of Krypton. He was Jor-El's good friend. He liked the council. Once upon a time, he was the defender and protector of Krypton. He was the general of the Kryptonian army. What happened? What happened to make Zod walk into the council chambers and shoot one of its members? It's interesting, isn't it? We're taking control. On whose authority, she says? Zod pulls out his gun and goes, mine. I've always been interested in that moment. Wow, he just shoots her because that snooty bitch is part of the reason Zod's taking over Krypton, because she and the rest of her council members woke up one morning and decided that they should stop being explorers and discovering, the knowledge of the universe and, just basically being explorers and finding things out and bringing back soil samples and things like that, right? And they banned natural births all of a sudden. So in the end, all their natural resources burn out. It's called karma. It's only what we're doing in our everyday world, in the real world. That's why David S. Goya's story and script is fucking genius, right? And it's all in the guise of a Superman movie, which makes it even more interesting to me. So General Zod, who began his life and journey as the defender of Krypton, someone who believed in his society, who loved Jor-El. He never stopped loving Jor-El as a friend. And you can see that in certain expressions in his face, like when he's forced to arrest Jor-El for not agreeing with him. The expression on his face is regret. When he deletes Jor-El's AI near the end of the movie or the third act, you can see the regret of what's happened. He still believes in what he's doing. So a good man, a once good man, if you like, has been forced to become a tyrant. And that's the thing. We all become Zod in the end. We have all become Zod in the end. Once upon a time, the vocal minority of Snyder stans were ordinary geeks and nerds. But just because they loved Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, they were prodded and attacked and bullied. So they also became General Zod. Nerdrodic, geeks and gamers, Jeremy Prime, all those people once upon a time were just ordinary people. But they became General Zod. We all become General Zod. In the end, if you poke someone and you prod someone enough, then they become General Zod. Let me tell you the story of Gertrude. It's a little story I made up this morning. Once upon a time, there was a little girl called Gertrude. In Gertrude's garden, there was a beehive. Every morning, Gertrude would wake up, go into that garden, pick up a stick, poke that hive. Nothing. She would do it again and again. Every single day, she'd get up. She'd look forward to poking that hive. One morning, she thought, I'm going to wake up, poke that hive, and I'll be fine. She pokes the hive, the bees rise up, and she's stung from head to toe. Basically, young Gertrude died because she didn't know when to stop poking the hive. There's a moral there. Stop poking the fucking hive. And that's what's happened within our society today. We have become General Zod. We are all General Zod. And if you're thinking, no way would I ever do what Zod did, I'm not saying I approve what Zod does in Man of Steel. But we can take this further to another DC villain, Joker. In Todd Phillips' 2019 Joker movie, when Arthur Fleck puts on the clown makeup and starts killing people, he's wearing the face of society. He's wearing the face that society have given him through years of bullying and being ostracized for being mentally ill. So we create these monsters in the end. It's like capitalism, thirst traps, Imagine being, for example, here's a great analogy for you. Imagine being a 30-stone man laying on your sofa watching porn all day, watching OnlyFans girls, and you come up with a revelation that you will never be able to make love or date a woman like that. Imagine the cruelty in that, knowing that you can never be with a woman like that. And this is what capitalism and the way the world's run, just to make money, just so you consume it, does to people. It's a cruel world, people. So in the end, we all become General Zod. And I think this is why Zod is such a successful character and why a lot of people praise Michael Shannon's performance. And he deserves praise. But it's actually the writing for Zod in Man of Steel that really for me is ingenious, because in the end, a good person becomes a bad person. And that's what happens to a lot of people in the end. If you look at what Nolan does in The Dark Knight, he says something along the lines, and I don't remember it now, and I've said this quote before, if you live long enough to be a hero or whatever, you become the villain. And that's what happens to Harvey Two-Face. Harvey Two-Face is a good guy. He wants to change Gotham City. He wants to keep it safe. In the end, he becomes the very thing that he's fighting. In the end, some of these vocal Snyderverse stands have become what they fought against, right? The bullies that bullied them for liking a movie. This is what happens. So in the end, we all become General Zod. This is what our society has become today. That's, we're all so angry. You go onto your Twitter feed and you see everyone is angry about something because we all become General Zod in the end. I think it's an apt analogy, isn't it? Because, as I said earlier, General Zod was this good guy, this defender of Krypton. He loved this planet. They were explorers. Imagine, and then, think about this, right? One morning, General Zod wakes up to realize, shit, my planet is going to implode. Everyone on this planet, including me, is going to die from no fault of my fucking own. I didn't do anything to deserve this. I served my planet. I served my civilization. And this is what happens in life, right? And everyone in the end, you look at all the people in the world that bite back, who are biting back today. And there's lots of comparisons I can give you, but if I give you those comparisons, I will be hated and I'll be doxxed, and I don't really want to be in that situation, so I'm not going to do it. I mean, my analogy about the overweight guy watching porn all day is deep enough, and some people will not like that analogy at all. And I could go deeper with that analogy. We create the monsters of society ourselves. The Kryptonian Council created General Zod. As I say, they were this brilliant, planet explorers. And then why did they ban natural birth? Because they wanted to control their own people. They wanted to control the behavior of their own people. It's happening in our real world today. They want to ban TikTok. They want to ban freedom of speech. we now have this behaviour police. I was listening to this commentary, this Smallville commentary on the episode Spell. You've got Erica Durant, you've got Christine Krug, and you've got Ali Mack, right? All on there giggling, and they say something like, oh, Jensen Ackles, he was so easy, and they start giggling. Now, I'm assuming they meant he was easy to work with. I mean, I don't know if they meant that thing, but they were giggling, right? These days, you can have 3 young actresses on commentary of a TV show, a DVD commentary, giggling. It wouldn't happen. It wouldn't be allowed because of the behaviour police. 3 girls giggling on a DVD commentary. Harmless. But these days, they will be doxxed on their social media. And that's what's happened. And that's the analogy of Krypton. This is why Zod's so angry. And this is what I mean. We all have become Zod today because we're angry. We grew up loving Hollywood, looking up to Hollywood. They were our gods, the producers, the writers, the directors, the actors. They were gods to us, the Clark Gables. Even the Arnie Schwarzeneggers and Sylvester Stallones, the Brandos, the Bruce Willises, the Sybil Shepherds, the Vivian Lees, they were gods and goddesses to us. Well, they're not gods and goddesses to us anymore because we have become General Zod. They made us General Zod. We used to enjoy the marketing for movies. I remember the marketing for Superman 4 and Superman Returns. It was so exciting. Even though maybe those films weren't the films we hoped they would be, the marketing was fun. What do we get these days? Kirsten Dunst telling us that once on the Spider-Man set, she was called a girly girl and she didn't like it. Love, I don't fucking care. Rebecca Ferguson moaning that one guy shouted at her on set. Another actress on the set of Blow complaining that Johnny Depp once shouted at her. There was a good reason for that, by the way, because she broke the creative artistic etiquette, and I don't want to go into that deeply. We don't care who shouted at you once. We don't care. Be positive about your environment. Your industry is fucking dying for these reasons. Of course, we know that Hollywood is a dirty place. The revelations about the children at Nickelodeon, I knew that years ago. Years ago, I've been speaking up against these things for years. I've been telling parents not to allow their children to work in the fucking entertainment industry. I had a little debate with Faith Herman, who was in both Shazam movies, about this situation. And she was telling me, well, my parents watched me via a camera phone or whatever, right? And I'm thinking, I'm not going to take this conversation any further. You know, the reason they have to watch you is because the people there that you believe in and trust are proper fucking matic. But anyway, so we know all this about Hollywood. And, and you're thinking, I thought you were going to talk about Man of Steel. I was going to talk about Man of Steel, but that's my revelation, that we all become General Zod in the end. And, if you like it or not, General Zod, you can't blame him for becoming the man who walks into that council chamber and shoots that female council member. No, you can't blame him. His planet's going to be destroyed. She and the rest of those members wanted to control him and everyone on that planet. That's the point. Do I agree with him murdering Jor-El, his good friend? No. He's been pushed too far. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with people killing people to make their point. Of course I don't. I don't agree with the fact that he's going to come to Earth and he wants to turn Earth into Krypton. It's totally wrong. As Superman tells him, Krypton had its chance and the Kryptonian Council betrayed it. There's people betraying countries every day, normally governments. So Man of Steel is really a very, very clever story, just like Todd Phillips' Joker 2019 is. Now, the alt-left and third-wave feminists may not like these stories about bad men who are justified in becoming bad men. We make them bad men. But it's funny when woke storytellers try and justify bad women. It happens in our UK soap operas every day. Look at Stacey Slater, a proper supervillain. And there's no justification. Charity Dingle, who they've now plucked, they've plucked up this thing that she was abused many, many years ago. And that's why she's always been a bitch, How fucking convenient. But anyway, when a writer tries to justify a male villain, it's wrong. We all saw how Arthur Fleck was treated in that movie. Does that justify him doing what he did? No. The movie's not justifying his behaviour. It's saying, if you keep on poking that fucking beehive, in the end, the bees will rise. That's what happened with the fight to release the Snyder Cut. They kept on poking us and poking us and poking us. In the end, we rose up, as did Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder was the one being poked by Warner Brothers again and again and again. Interfering with his vision was bad enough. Driving him out and using his daughter's suicide was a step too far. They had poked that beehive once too often. And then Snyder rose up, we rose up with him, and we stung Warner Brothers Pictures good and proper. And oh boy, did they not like it. We all become General Zod in the end. We all become General Zod in the end. Because society pushes us there. Do you remember the days when we used to believe everything Access Media used to tell us? We pick up a newspaper 20, 30 years ago, if you're around my age. If the Sun said something, it was true. How fucking stupid were we? We used to vote for the people the newspapers told us to. But now we know them. We know the entertainment industry. We know they're bad people. We know what they do to children. Meanwhile, they're busy telling one half of the audience they're bad people because of the way they vote. They're lecturing us on gun control when up to recently they were using real guns on their sets. That's the reason why the young cinematographer was murdered and why a little boy lost his mother and a man lost his wife, because basically in Hollywood the results are more important than anything. A director will do anything to get his vision, and if that means a stuntman has to put his life at risk, if a stunt person has to die to enable that vision, they don't really care. And that's why Alec Baldwin hasn't been very sympathetic to the woman who died. A real gun on the set, while they've been lecturing American society about gun control. It's poking the bee. And in the end, all those bees rise up and sting you back. We all become General Zod in the end. And this makes Man of Steel a very interesting movie. Because if General Zod was once a hero, what does that make Superman in Man of Steel? It makes him basically, it's interesting. Because really, and this is a very controversial thing by the way, Henry Cavill's Superman, Kal-El, Clark Kent, is who General Zod was before he was stung, before he was poked and poked and poked. Stung. No, basically, they were poking him. Imagine he's the bee. He's the beehive, right? He's all the bees. And they were poking him, poking him, poking him. He rose up and he stung back. This is who Henry Cavill's Superman is in Man of Steel. He's General Zod before he kept on getting poked. General Zod was the hero of Krypton. He was Superman to the Kryptonians at one point. And that's what Henry Cavill is here. He's the hero. He is what General Zod once was on Krypton. Because Jor-El says something. The AI Jor-El says something to him before, Zod deletes him. He goes, my son is twice the man you once was. Exactly, because he was the hero of Krypton, right? And he will finish what we started. So it's a very, very interesting story. But because David Goyer is such a clever guy, he did it. You know how they tell stories today, they get the hammer and they smash you over the head. This film doesn't smash you over the head with anything, but it's got a lot of interesting commentary in it. And basically, who is General Zod in the movie? He's Bin Laden. Bin Laden, many, many, many years ago, probably was a good bloke, right? You know, as I say, I could go deeper with these analogies, but they would be controversial, right? Because I don't want to be justifying the actions of Bin Laden. But maybe, before he was poked too much, Bin Laden was a good guy. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know what he was. But what happens once you poke and poke and poke someone, and you do bad things to them, and you do bad things to their planet or their country, they rise up. You push them too far. That's who Zod is. All these warlords that we hear of, Saddam Hussein, all these people, right, once upon a time, they weren't warlords, right? Isn't that the story that Smallville's Lex Luthor is telling us? Once upon a time, Lex Luthor in Smallville was just a guy who'd made some mistakes as a young man in Metropolis, comes to Smallville, he's trying to start again. He's inspired by Clark Kent. Clark has inspired him to try and redeem his behavior. But he can't be redeemed because the person who brought him up, Lionel Luthor, is a foreshadowing of his very own future. So DC does a lot of deep takes. Again, if you keep on poking someone, they will rise up and sting you. Isn't Lex Luthor in Smallville the very analogy of that? All his life, Lionel Luthor was poking him. Then we get that season 7 episode, Descent. In the end, he pokes back, pushes him out the window, and as we see Lionel Luthor falling, the guy who's poked the Beehive all these years is happy. This is what he wanted. He wanted Lex Luthor to sting him all along. He wants Lex and Clark to fulfill his Cain and Abel fantasy. Lunacy, but it's very, very deep storytelling. We all become General Zod. In the pilot of Smallville, Lex Luthor is a good man. He's not a megalomaniac. He doesn't want to become his father. We hear him say it so many times in the Smallville series. But he can't fight his destiny. It's inbred within him. His father has knocked it into him too far. He has no choice but to become the evil megalomaniac he's fated to become. As I say, we all become General Zod in the end. But, I think in today's society, it's a very apt analogy when you look at what's going on. You look at a lot of people, you look at a lot of YouTubers before they became famous. You know the YouTubers that now lecture us, the ones who try and, they're just there to make money, right? Once upon a time, just decent, everyday people, a bit of success went to their head, and they're different. You look at Boba Talks. He's joined the Run with Gun mob now, right? He's well on track. Whatever James Gunn says, yes, Lord Gunn, yes. Oh my God, yes, you like Constantine? Everyone wet themselves and come in their pants yesterday because James Gunn on Threads was asked who his favourite DC magician is, and he said, Constantine, probably. He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know who his favourite fucking magician is, right? I love Constantine. But now, every time James Gunn says something, oh my God, he said probably, probably Constantine is his favourite magician. Oh my God, he's going to do a Constantine fucking movie. No, he's not. He didn't say that. Every time he posts, he knows what he's doing, creating this fake hype. But, as I said, keep your expectations down. It's like when we get this thing with the Run from Gun mob. Oh my God, James Gunn understands Superman. Okay, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't, right? But how do you know if he understands Superman until you actually see his movie? Have you read his script for Superman? No, you haven't. So you don't actually know if he understands Superman. Why do people do this? People making the assumptions before they saw The Flash and Blue Beetle. Bestest movie ever. And they were both pretty shit, right? They had good points and some good performances, but mainly they were shit and they flopped. Why do nerds make these assumptions these days? At the very least, wait. If you hear some exciting news about this Superman movie or the DCU, by all means, be my guest. Get excited. Get excited. But you can't make the assumption that somebody knows a character without seeing their thought process to that character. So far, all we know about James Gunn's opinion about Superman and Clark Kent is he's a big galoot. That's all he said about Superman. Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't really fill me with confidence. But I want to watch that film and change my mind about James Gunn writing and directing a Superman film. I don't want my fears to come to, I don't want them to become real. I want this to be an excellent film because he's a solid writer-director. He can give us great themes. He has given us great themes. Guardians 3 was very, very interesting. So was Guardians 2. And the first Guardians was a lot of fun. So that is my revelation about General Zod in Man of Steel. That in the end, we're all in that position where we could become Zod. In the end, if they keep on pushing us and, sticking it to us. Obviously, mostly we are balanced human beings, good people, that resist becoming General Zod. But the weaker you are, the easier it is to become General Zod. Because as I said on the beginning of the video, General Zod was just an ordinary guy, an ordinary soldier, a general protecting his own world. He was Kal-El. He was the hero of Krypton. He was Jor-El's best friend. Until they poked him and pushed him too far. So my analogy of my story of the girl who poked the beehive is don't poke the beehive, but people do. You look at J.K. Rowling. Years ago, when she first started writing Harry Potter books and the films started coming out, everyone saw her as this benevolent figure. Oh my God, a housewife just sat there writing these books. She's amazing. Then she starts talking about her views on the trans community. The complicated, the non-black and white, the non-simplistic, the transgender community and the fact that they've become very mainstream today has changed the world that we live in. And with a new normal, we need new solutions. And those solutions are not easy. They're not black and white. So it's difficult. Where should they get changed? It's not easy. There's not an easy answer there. There's people taking advantage of this, men taking advantage of this to hurt women. What do we do about that? These are complicated issues and there's no black and white answers. And Joe Rowling, in the end, has become General Zod to a lot of people. Was there a better way of Miss Rowling talking about her concerns over women's safety? I probably think so. Could she have conducted herself in a different way? I think whatever she did, this kind of conversation is complicated. And when you're as famous as Joe is, people are going to try and dox you and try and make you look bad. I don't know what her agenda is. I hope it's just to protect females. I think it's important to protect women and women to be safe. I think it's important for all of us to be safe and everyone to protect the entirety of society. But that's the example of General Zod. She started off on a good road and now she's been put forward as some villain. General Zod is deemed as the villain of Man of Steel. Is he? By the end of the movie, because he doesn't get his way, he can't turn Earth into Krypton, he's a broken man. So he fights Superman. There's no way he can do anything. Even if he kills Superman, I don't even think the Codex would work anymore because everything, all the equipment's been destroyed. I think he's just angry at that point. But the starting point for General Zod, like it is for everyone, we all start off as heroes within our own stories and we have the potential to become villains. We must never allow a corrupt society to push us into becoming villains. We must never become General Zod. We must always want and remain as Superman.